Thanks for joining the July 24th, 2018 VOLTA call. So we'll be going over some Sprint 5 planning and discussion and review of additional new JIRAs as well. And we do record the sessions to post them later to YouTube, so please keep that in mind during any discussions and presentations. And with that, just wanted to start off with Sprint 5 and the schedule we're looking at for that. So Sprint 5 started yesterday and is scheduled again for 3 weeks as usual. So that takes us through August 10th. And there were a couple items I just wanted to follow up on first that carried over from previous discussions to see if we needed any review with the group to move forward on those. So the first one is 542. Let me see who we've got on the bridge right now, actually. David, I see you're on. Okay, so let me go over.
Good morning.
542. Good morning. Okay, so this one has had some discussion, but I need to rearrange things so I can see. Here we go. Some discussion in Garrett, but we didn't get it resolved for Sprint 4. So I wanted to check to see if there's anything we need to cover with a larger group to get this resolved in Sprint 5. I think this one had been blocking Gamza's work, so I just wanted to make sure we circled back to this. And let's see, I'm not sure if, Amit may not be on. Okay, so why don't I go over to Garrett for this. So this is one that we brought back in. It had been stagnant for a while, and then there's some new discussion on the path forward for this. And the issue is related to using status data for OLT config data. And then I think the discussion points at the end were what I wanted to figure out, with David, and I was hoping Amit would be on as well, so we could see if we could figure out the next steps for this item, or if we need to have a larger discussion.
I don't think we necessarily need to have a large discussion. I'll
Okay.
pick this back up with Amit offline and see what's going on.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, David. And then 1067 was the next one. Let me go over this way maybe. Okay, and let me see if we've got the right folks on the bridge. And I'm not sure if we've got the right folks on the bridge for this discussion. Okay, so this was one related to the JIRA was for adding the manufacturer Celestica to ONOS 1.3 and master in order to automatically load the VOLTHA driver. And there's some discussion over what the appropriate way to handle this is. And so I think we do not have the right people on the call to discuss today. So, but that has been under active discussion. So I guess we'll just let that carry over until Thursday and see if we get traction on the path forward for that. Okay.
Is this only applied to Celestica, or is everybody adapter?
The ticket was opened related to
Celestica.
Yeah, but then the proposal from Jono is that actually the path to take is to remove the Celestica manufacturer string, and then if you look down here, you can see the comments from Jono about why he thinks that's the best path. And so this is letting VOLTHA do the work and not relying on ONOS to know the hardware manufacturer.
Okay.
So this is kind of a who's supposed to be doing that decision type of discussion.
And that's after Alfonso said they would take care of that, right? I think I sent out email to Alfonso. Okay, I'll take a look at this one.
I'm not sure if that was that may be this one. Yeah.
Yeah, it
so
is.
It's active discussion, and then Luca is back and had some comments as well. So I think the next step is some feedback from Alfonso again, hopefully.
Okay.
Okay. Then I think the next thing, let me go back to my agenda. Let's take a quick look at what we've got in Sprint 5. So we do have a fair bit of work that carried over from Sprint 4 into Sprint 5. So really the sprint is pretty full to start, but I do want to see if there's some defects, for example, we can pull in and then look at the high priority items in the backlog as well to see if there are items that should be prioritized for Sprint 5 from there as well. So I think it may be easier to view it this way. We'll see. So any preference on viewing it on this screen versus the other view? I'm not sure which one's going to work better now that I think about it. There we go. Okay. So we have the one carryover item we just talked about, which is in QP Sprint 6. That is in, we're covering in this time frame as well. So Sprint 5, well, maybe it is better to see it on the other screen. That way you can see the in progress one. Let me move back over. And so we have a fair bit of the work on the core that's continuing, and we knew that from the discussions in Sprint 4. And then we have a number of the issues carry over still from that were some of them in progress before with defect resolution, and then some new items as well. So Andy, I did want to follow up with you. I think I saw you on about 506. I did check this morning, and it looks like the updates are not.
It's not been updated. That's correct. Okay. I apologize. I'm gonna choke somebody here in a little bit. I apologize. I thought I'd handled it last Thursday. They told me they're going to do it, and it hadn't been done. I checked this morning as well. So
okay.
All
right.
I will get it done.
And
I'm sorry.
Have your issues with Jira been resolved? Are you able to get back in again?
Yes. Yep. So
okay,
everything's
great.
fine, and Alan will be joining the calls. He's starting next week.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And then we do have work on OpenOMCI as well, a few of them related to the Broadcom ONU-DA OpenOMCI implementation. And then a number that were, I think, looked at previously in Sprint 4, carrying over to Sprint 5 for OpenOLT. And then a number of defects as well that are carrying over, for example, the VOL 1030. And then 1043 is another one we've got that's in the works. We have the work that Gamza was doing that we've got a related ticket, I think, that shows the blocked, yes, blocked by 949, which is blocked by 542. And then a few new issues that have been brought in for Sprint 5 also. And then we also have the CIG OLT adapter integration targeted for the Sprint. And then in the to-do, we have a number, I'll start at the bottom here, some new BB-SIM issues that have been brought in. So we'll look at those when we're reviewing new issues. And then most of these are carried over from Sprint 4, I believe, with a few new ones. Okay, any high-level questions from the group on Sprint 5 and what's in there right now? Again, most of it is carried over from Sprint 4 as a starting point. And then okay, then let's start going over. I think let's look at the backlog first, if I can find the right tab, and take a look at the some of the defects and high priority issues to see if there are items that need to be pulled in for Sprint 5, if we can find resources to work on them. Okay, so the first one shown up here is VOL 1045. This is a high priority defect that was opened. ONU uniports remained down after ONU activation. So this is one that I think had been recreated by a couple folks. So Sunny had reproduced this issue. Do we have and I'd like to see if we can get this one pulled into Sprint 5 since it is a high priority defect. Do we have anyone who's available? Oh, it's actually assigned already. Shad, do we have you on the bridge? I don't think so. Okay. So Sean or anyone else in the group, Sean, I was looking to you as product owner here, if you think this one should be pulled into Sprint 5 or hold off for some discussion with Shad. And you may be on mute, Sean.
I think it should be pulled into the Sprint 5.
So let me go ahead.
Since there's some deliverable, you know, regarding to the, I think this is Broadcom ONU, right? So there are multiple service provider has deliverable in August, so I think this one needs.
Okay. So we'll move that into Sprint 5.
Did they specify is all the ports or just the key port?
I don't see that specified.
So Nick
here.
doesn't see it and Sunny saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, I think that's a very high level. Yeah. Right. Let's put in the Sprint 5. Okay. And I'll talk to Shad.
Okay, thanks. And then let's see, Keita-san, I had a question for you on this item. I know that you'd, I think, opened this as part of a couple tickets, and this was the one where it was if necessary. Then this was the one for the state machine. Yes.
Yes, currently the state machine is needed, so please put this item to the Sprint 5.
Okay, thank you. All right. And then this one, I know Shad's been pulling in the OpenOLT work as there are resources available to do it. So I think we will move over that one for now and go back to the defects. So we've got a number here of the medium priority defects. First one, 1113, is a fairly new one. OpenOLT state machine no longer allows disable, delete, then reprovision. I think there'd been, oh, I thought this one had some discussion. I'm wrong. Okay. So any, and this one is assigned to Shad. So any view on if this one should be brought in for Sprint 5?
Hi, this is Nick from the Atlanta Foundry.
Hi.
Mm-hmm. So I think this one is somewhat related to ONU delete, which is currently under review.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know if it can be pulled to Sprint 5, but it certainly needs the other one to be resolved and integrated before we can fully test it. So, I mean, if it's pulled to Sprint 5, it's more likely going to be more like the end of Sprint 5.
Okay.
And
so,
Shad may have fixed some of those problems. I know he's been working on the state machine a little.
And do you have the JIRA number for the issue that needs to be resolved first? And I can.
It's under current sprint. Let me get it. It's 762.
762. Okay.
When you delete, it's currently under review. It's in Garrett.
Okay. I'll put a link in for this issue in the backlog then after the call. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. There are a couple here I think we probably just should talk about then, but Sean and I have talked about them a little bit related to the installer. So we think that, you know, with the move to Helm charts and a number of other changes, that some of these may end up going away or would just be a verification issue. So we've got 443, and then there's an installer failure 438. And I thought there was one more installer item. And so those, I think, probably we don't need too much discussion with the group unless anyone has comments right now. I think those can hold.
Is Dave Bainbridge or Sergio still on?
David is.
David, educate me a little bit. If Kubernetes, if we use home chart, does it require the server have internet connection? Because I think one of the
yeah, it will require the server to have the connection because it's still got to download the Docker images, right? So it's not going to Kubernetes and Helm doesn't mean you don't need the internet. In fact, you with Kubernetes or Helm, you basically have a repo situation. You tell Helm, hey, here are the repos from which to download my charts.
Right.
And then it downloads the charts, and the charts reference Docker images, and those Docker images again get downloaded. So the internet is required.
Because that contradict that, and I guess the installer was the original created to support the installing VOLTHA without internet connection, right?
Yeah,
that was one of its aspects.
The installer would create its own registry and bring all the files along with it in the archive that made it up.
So potentially
that wasn't
so
updated.
potentially I think some service provider may want to just solely rely on the Helm chart, and some may still want to have an installer.
Even if you have, how do I say this? They're not exclusive, I guess. I mean, if you're going to rely on the Helm chart for install, and right now the default install and actually the only supported install is Helm chart, you still need Helm. Now, if you also want to say, look, I also want to be able to download everything I need offline, if you will, or put it on a system that's not connected to the internet, you still can do that, but that doesn't say I'm not using Helm. That just says I'm getting all the artifacts Helm needs before I start the Helm install, so I can do it off when I'm not connected to the internet.
And then potentially, if I have a private network within the CO without going out, right? So you can create a cluster of your own. so potentially, it's without internet, but it has a LAN connection, and you can still use that, right? So I guess, Julie, what I'm saying is, the installer issue probably, is still required to be resolved.
I think the first step would be to document
verify mode. Oh, go ahead, David.
Yeah, I think the first step would be document how we would do a non-connected install. Again, are we going to assume Kubernetes exists? Then we have to document how do we get the Helm charts, how do we get the Docker images to be made available to that Kubernetes cluster so that the Helm charts can run. And once we get that manually understood, then we can look at automating it.
Okay. I think I will reach out to service providers, see what the installer option has the immediate deliverable or not. If not, truly what I'm saying, in the install option can be pushed out a little bit, but eventually we need to have that. And also, what the document that David is talking about, I think that should be also combined with the work, the document we need to do in order to instruct people how to install VOLTHA, right? So I think the document scope getting a little bit bigger. Okay.
I think it's important, even when we do the installer, that we're not planning to make the installer install Kubernetes. That's an important aspect, because right now the installer goes from essentially bare metal to a working VOLTHA. And what we're looking at going forward is, no, you have to get to Kubernetes, and then once you get to Kubernetes, the installer will take you the rest of the way.
I think that's a reasonable comment. So do we have a JIRA saying, the installer is not required to install the Docker and the Docker manager? I would call the Kubernetes as a Docker management.
Right now, I think the installer needs to, well, because of the changes around Helm and Kubernetes, and the requirement not to install Kubernetes as part of the installer, it needs a complete revamp. Isn't that fair to say, Sergio? I mean, it's quite a big change.
Sorry, I had to get off mute. Yes, it would be. I mean, the installer hasn't been updated since what, VOLTHA 1.0?
Yeah.
When it was built for Swarm, right?
Right.
Or it was not built for Kubernetes. There have been some updates, but it's not internet free right now. It uses
Sergio, sorry, you're fading away.
Oh, sorry. It's my microphone's very directional. So it's quite a bit of work to do the update. So
okay.
Let's confirm that we need it. I remember I had asked before, do we still need to maintain the installer? And I really never got an answer for that. So if we can get an answer one way or the other, then we'll schedule it in. Maybe not for 2.0, but certainly whatever 2.1 or 2.3 or 2.2, what have you, we'll update it.
Okay.
Because it did a lot of stuff, right? And it did everything for you. It would install Ubuntu on it would create it could either create VMs and install the system on VMs or install the system on bare metal, assuming bare metal machines had Ubuntu on them already. Right. So it does a lot of heavy lifting for you, but I need to know that it's needed, because if it's not, it's a lot of work wasted on something that nobody's ever going to use.
So on your position, you actually prefer to, but in that case, if we include that, then which means you have to involve with the Kubernetes installation also, right? Not just the Docker.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything needs to be installed, right? So
I don't know. I think if we go forward on the installer, we say, look, you get to Kubernetes. We don't install Kubernetes. We install bare metal. There are ample playbooks out there to get you to Kubernetes virtual cluster if you want one, or a real cluster. We don't try to replicate.
But if you say that, that means that the requirement was, and maybe it's no longer that, the requirement was that you wanted to basically a full working VOLTHA installation without accessing the internet. If you're saying Kubernetes must be installed, then they need to figure out how to install it and go through whatever tools are required without accessing the internet.
Understood. I am saying we need to change the requirement.
Right.
Oh, okay. I mean, I'm fine, but let's decide what the requirement is, and then once we understand what the requirement is, let's schedule it in. But for now, I'm assuming that we're not evolving the installer until told otherwise.
So if we're not, the installer today definitely is, let's say the current version has bug and deprecated in some way, right? So it still supports Docker Swarm. Okay, so I do believe.
So Sean, on VOLTHA 1.0, if you pull a VOLTHA 1.0, the installer works perfectly. And
so the 1.0 is still available. Okay. Good. So what I'm saying is, I think for the short term, I would, assuming the installer requirement, we can put it off. At least, again, I think I would check with the other service provider. The installer option definitely very helpful for the lab environment, especially a brand new lab, so that they install everything for you. And yes, I owe you the requirement regarding to whether we need to modify the installer, whether the installing the VOLTHA without internet connection is still required to use the installer or not, or there are other options. So I will provide that back to you at some point, and then but at the same time, I think, Julie, some of the installer related Jira, we can put it as a lower priority at this point, at least for 2.0.
That was my next question. So Sean, let's do that offline.
Yep.
But then we can identify those and bump them down in priority for now.
And I definitely would like to have other service provider to state if they want this requirement to be higher again or not. So, but I think I will reach out to the service providers offline, and then we go from that.
Okay, thanks, Sean. The next
Thanks,
one,
David. Thanks, Sergio.
We've got almost all of the TST members on here, but not quite. So I do want to just bring this item up because it was one that we had targeted for a decision by the TST. So just to bring it up for visibility to the folks that are on the call, and then if the TST folks could follow up later, that would be great. So there was a question that we had a couple months back on whether we wanted to have continued support for Docker Swarm Mode plus console. So it's basically how many permutations do we want to support for things going forward. So that one, I think, is just, what happens here is pending a decision from the TST. I just wanted to make sure that was visible.
But Julie, right now today, there's none of the work is working on this one still under the assumption console will be replaced with etcd, right?
Correct. So this was a low priority item, but whether or not we can close it out or if it needs work in the future depends on a decision on whether we want to continue to support this mode.
Are there really two questions there? Do we want to support Docker Swarm, irrespective of console or etcd? That's one question.
Yeah, there are multiple
And the other question is,
yeah.
Do we want to support etcd and console?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
One question maybe for people more involved with the open source project is, if something we don't do currently and may resurface later, is that something better just close it and then open again? Or just push off and then the backlog getting longer and longer?
Is anyone asking for this?
David, what are you saying?
Has anybody said, hey, I need this on Docker Swarm, or I need this on console? Has anybody said this is something I need or I can explore?
No, what I was asking, a more general question is, if we foresee this issue can be resurfaced when the situation change, but currently, or we don't see it's happening, shall we close the ticket and let the ticket reopen, open later, or keep the ticket open and then push it off to future?
I would argue right now, I would just close it and say do not fix and have someone reopen it later, mostly because if it comes up, most people create new JIRAs without searching to see if there's an existing JIRA anyway.
Right. Okay.
So
I think maybe, Julie, that's another question for TST members to answer, whether there are a lot of very out of date tickets, and then we still potentially see them to be useful in the future. Whether we close it now or say do not fix and then let them open again later. We have too many of those tickets.
Yeah, we do have quite a few. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Sean. All right. I think we had a couple items. This one, I think we had a question, Andy, for you on 329. And this is whether this issue is still relevant for Nokia. So if you could take a look at that and put a reply back in JIRA, that would be great.
I will do it.
Thanks. And then 323, I think we've had some issues with not having folks who use. We've had reproducibility probably because people haven't been using the RG container in this manner. So DH client command is not running an RG container.
And then the Jeffrey was saying that he's doing something, but but no one. I guess the IP address has been assigned, but he's not sure whether is Jeffrey on? Jeffrey, I think I saw him on earlier.
I saw him earlier. Yes, yes.
Jeffrey, are you on?
Okay. Maybe unmute, Sean.
Hi, sorry,
Oh,
I was having some technical difficulties.
That's okay.
But yeah, yeah, I mean, I don't think I have too much to add on to what you've just said, but whenever I work with the RG with PondSim, I just pull the image from the VOLTHA Docker Hub, and as far as I know, Docker Hub doesn't allow me to see the source code, and I don't think I've seen any code for the RG within my local machine from when I pulled from the VOLTHA repo itself. So as far as I know, I really don't know how the RG gets assigned its IP address.
Okay. And then I think this ticket was opened originally by Stefan.
No, by Siraj. And then assigned to Stefan.
Okay. I think Stefan is busy on other things right now.
So may need to see if this is, still something we need for 2.0, or if this is something that could be deferred. So we can follow up on that later, probably.
Yep.
Okay. And then I think the remaining items, we have a number of defects that are here that are low priority. Sean, I don't know if there are any specific ones you want to go over. I wanted to mainly focus on the higher priority items.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Okay.
There's something about vendor ID. I just want to take a look at that. If you go up a little bit. Oh, the wrong ID. With error throw. Okay. Potentially I'll have Venkata take a look at that. Okay. I thought Venkata was looking at that. Okay.
Okay. And then we have, so that's kind of a quick recap of the high priority defects and mediums that are in the backlog right now. And then when we look at items that were slated for 2.0 and high priority functionality or user stories, we've got 912 as one of those. VOLTHA Core does not support more than one NNI interface currently. And so that one, I'm not sure. So this one, again, was assigned to Sergio. I'm not sure timing-wise of when this one would come in.
Sergio, are you on?
Yeah, sorry, I'm always on mute.
That's a good practice. That's good. What does this ticket mean? Do you know? Does it mean the VOLTHA Core can only support one
NNI interface on the OLT? That was the issue.
But one NNI interface per OLT, or only one OLT?
One NNI per OLT was
one NNI per OLT.
Yeah, that was the issue.
Okay. So what how about so that is preventing the lag? Is that true?
Yeah, you can't do lag without setting two NNIs, right?
Or you cannot have it diverse. One NNI go to one, leave the other. Okay, I think this is low priority right now at this point. Because okay, this is one I need to check with the other service provider. With AT&T, this is low priority, 912. And Sergio, do you know how to fix it? Just unmute.
Well, no, I'd have to go dig into it. I don't know why it's being prevented. And you know what? We can probably fold this into the rewrite of the core in Golang anyway. So as we're rewriting the core, this may be something that we can just take care of. I don't know what was stopping it. I actually haven't looked into it yet.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be able to tell you, but maybe just looking into it, we find it's really easy to just fold into our rewrite, so we'll put it in. So it's something we need to look at. I don't think we're doing it in this next sprint though, but it's something we need to look into. So it should stay in the backlog. I'd leave it in the backlog for now.
Okay. And you'll remind yourself, you know. What was the, no, okay, yeah, 912. Potentially Go can resolve it. Okay. Well, good. Thanks.
And then we have a large number, and I haven't pulled in security items yet. I'm not sure if it's a good use of our time to go through each of the high priority items one at a time, or Sean, if you have specific ones you think would be good as product owner for prioritization. Or
okay, the 84, the number 84, I think is, you know, we've gone through the park, we've gone through things, the ticket's still open. But it seems like people never understand a good explanation regarding to how to save immutable cluster configuration. Right, so that's one of the tickets that been stay on the backlog for a long time. 84.
Isn't I don't know, is there some irony there? You're saving immutable cluster information. If it's immutable, it can't be saved. It just exists. The fact that you're saving it implies there's some change to this configuration over time, and therefore it's not immutable.
No, the idea there was that there's a bunch of cluster configuration information that you want to save in case you want to rebuild your cluster due to a disaster. So for disaster recovery, there's stuff that doesn't change in the cluster, like, you know, the bricks for Gluster FS and some of the configs for all that stuff. They never change. You set it up once and you never touch it again, but you need to back it up. Because to restore your cluster, you have to get it back.
So it's a backup thing, not a save. That's what threw me, is the save. I'm like,
to save or to back up immutable cluster configuration.
Okay.
That's what it was.
So is that something can be worked on, or?
Well, you know, things, you know what, this was for the original Swarm version of this, so we need to go back and reinvestigate how what we need to do for the Kubernetes deployment scenario, and whether or not, you know, there are a few things I think we still need to save, like, you know, the Gluster FS config for distributed store. But a lot of it might already be in Kubernetes etcd store anyway. So this needs to be reinvestigated for the Kubernetes change. So I would say
I just changed to backup.
Yeah, so leave it there, and just leave it. Is this how urgent is this?
High. This one say high.
Yeah, I know it said high because that's what I set it to when I created it. Yeah, I'd set the priority of that to medium and just leave it in the backlog.
Okay. Julia just changed it.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll make a comment on the ticket. It also said review for Kubernetes.
Okay. Yeah, we had talked about whether or not to just reuse the ticket and reword it for Kubernetes, or to close it and open a new one. So we were going to, I think, repurpose that one, but either approach is fine with me.
Well, but Julie, what we might do is, after looking at it, say we're just going to close this and create a new one for
and
Kubernetes, right? But we need to look at it. It's been a while since I wrote these.
Okay, we have a batch of 3 now that are items for supporting DT requirements. And first one is supporting multiple unis per ONU, and that one is currently unassigned. And then I want to cover all three of these at once, I think. And then supporting configuring ONU to not add or remove CVLAN tag. And then the third one in dispatch is reporting of ONU registration IDs from VOLTHA. So is there anyone in the community that is planning to work on these three items?
I think, isn't that true? The ticket was open. DT resource is going to work on those, right?
They're currently unassigned, so that's why I was asking.
Okay.
So if you think it's a T resource, I'm not sure if we have anyone on the call today.
Yeah, well, for
Sean?
fall 1022, there's an alarm for registration ID that's in some of the common code that just got checked in or submitted this week. So I guess that sort of relates to 1022.
Okay.
And of course, we just need to make sure that all the adapters can support that, and it has whatever northbound people expect.
And Chip, thanks. But do you have that Chira ID for that particular code?
It's a recent one. I think it might be 1008. Hold on just a second. 11 is vol 1109.
1109.
Yes, and that's just mainly the common code that just has some seed code that might support some of this for you.
Okay. Great, thanks.
Okay. So we have quite a number still of the high priority ones that were, and this is based on the priority they were given perhaps a long time ago as well. So Sean, I'm not quite sure what to do here with these, since I already know Sprint 5 is really already full. But we'll, and
right.
I'm not sure, we've got about 15 minutes left here today.
I think the ONU operational state, and then if we look at the Broadcom ONU stuff, right? So the ONU operational state and PON operational state, those probably will be urgent enough. We need to have that implemented. ONU software upgrade, I think that depends on that's part of the Open OpenCI work also, right? So.
And I think the operational parameters may have some overlap with the news stories opened by Mike.
Right.
I'm looking at the list here. I think those are broken out at a more granular level than this one here. Okay.
So potentially this one's the head, and then the other one the definition of those. So we need to consolidate.
Okay. All right, Sean, this one I'm going to jump down here really quickly because you had some discussion on it on VOLTHA Discuss. So 756 was one we don't have a target assigned for it yet, whether it was 2.0 or later. So last time we talked about it was a little over a month ago, and that was going to be further discussion with the community on timing. So I wanted to just point out that Sean initiated that discussion on VOLTHA Discuss to try and figure out what release this belongs in. So this is moving out the creation and management of the logical devices, moving that out of the adapters. So
this is already part of 2.0. This is part of the API set that I sent out and waiting for the community to review some.
Okay, okay. So actually, let me add this to 2.0 then. Thank you, Ken. And was that an updated version of the document, or is that the first one you're still waiting on comment?
It was the updated version. Well, it was in both of them. So, but the updated version, I'm waiting for comments.
When did you send that out? I'm wondering if I missed it.
Well,
Down the wiki?
2 weeks.
Oh,
no, it's not on the wiki. No, maybe it should need to be.
When I was on vacation, that's probably okay. So we'll see if we can get some comment back to you. Okay, thanks, Ken. Okay, I think, let me go back to the agenda. I think what I'd like to do now is let's go take a look at the new JIRAs, and then that will take us probably through most of the remaining time. So 1114 is the latest one. Let me go to view, and we can start down here. So new issues since our last meeting, OpenOLT flows removal. This one is opened by Nick and is already targeted for Sprint 5. And then we've got a batch here on OpenOLT. Next one is act on logical flows and stop ignoring downstream. So act directly on logical flows pushed by ONOS rather than arbitrarily modified flows. And that one's in Sprint 5 as well. 1116 is for an OLT reboot for the OLT device. Again, Sprint 5. 1117, OLT device identification by port number. And that one was reported by Keita-san. And at this point, we don't have an assignee for that item.
I don't understand the 1116 OpenOLT reboot. I thought we have that.
As far as I know, the current OpenOLT adapter doesn't support the reboot function, right?
Hi, this is Nick. It does not support OpenOLT reboot. What we have is if the OLT reboots, everything is recovering.
Okay.
That's where the confusion comes from. But if in VOLTHA you send a reboot command with the OpenOLT ID, nothing's going to happen.
But if you pull the power out of the line card, if you pull the power out of the OLT, and then it recovers on its own, that's the difference, right? It's the difference between a managed reboot and an unplanned reboot.
Right, but if you choose a CLI on the VOLTHA or the REST interface, then that function is not there.
That function is not there yet.
Okay.
Other questions on this?
No. Okay. Just some confusion on my end.
Okay, and then this one was the OLT device identification by port number. Currently identifies OLT device with IP address, so you need to assign different IP addresses to each OLT device. There's a Keita-san says it's preferable that each device is identified by port number, especially for emulating multiple OLTs by BBSIM in a single IP address.
Yes, this topic should be discussed, but I believe it is preferable that each device be identified by port number for running a BBSIM in a single IP address for emulating multiple OLTs.
Thank you, Keita-san. Any comments or questions?
Hi, this is Nick. Port number, you mean TCP port number?
That's right.
So I guess we need to use both because in the OpenOLT case, they will all have the same port number. They will all use 9191, and they will have different IPs. So maybe we need to find a scheme that uses both of them.
I mean, is this basically so that we can run multiple OLT simulators from one IP address? Are we changing OpenOLT code to support simulator?
I think both of them. So we have to modify the OpenOLT adapter and the BBSIM, both of them.
Sure, no, I mean, it makes sense. I'm just saying it seems like the cart leading the horse, right? I mean, we can make the simulator work any number of different ways. It's just if we're basically saying because I want BBSIM to do something, I need to change OpenOLT, then it's kind of backwards.
Yeah, I gotta say, my preference would be not to change OLT to know that it's doing the simulator.
I see. I got it.
Because I mean, if nothing else, if it's if it's an IP addressing problem so that you want to run multiple BBSIMs with multiple IP addresses, then RFC 1918 IPs are cheap and plentiful. So.
Well, the other issue is the minute you have multiple code paths, I can't talk, in OpenOLT, anytime you're testing it now, all you're testing is that secondary path through the simulator, and you're not getting a really good test of OpenOLT.
Okay. I will think about this. So, should I close this topic temporarily?
So let's see. Let me take it out of the sprint at least while we're having further discussion on it. Whoops, that didn't work.
You had to apply.
Yep, there we go. And then if you want to have some follow-up discussion with others on the call, be able to discuss or something like that, that's fine. And then, and I think, you should be able to temporarily close it and reopen if you need to as well. Other comments or discussion? Okay, then the next one is for BBSIM support for ONU indicator. And let's see, so Keita-san, this is one that you'll be working on yourself.
Yes, this topic is for adding the emulation function to BBSIM. So the current BBSIM only supports a part of indication message between OpenOLT adapter and OLT device, but it is not sufficient for activating the logical device So I want to add the emulation of ONU indication in the BBSIM.
Any questions for Keita-san? Okay, the next new one is 1119, another for BBSIM, and this is DHCP client emulation.
Yes, I'm now trying to emulate the DHCP message sent from RG to OpenOLT adapter by BBSIM. So this topic is for that.
Okay, thank you. And is this one that currently is unassigned? Are you going to be working on this, or is it?
Yes. Please assign me.
Okay. Thank you. All right. And then the next item, 1120, support alarm get and alarm get next events in OpenOMCI. And Chip has this in Sprint 5. Any questions on the addition of these message types? Okay, so that takes us, let me just do a refresh, make sure nothing came in during the call. Okay, so that gets us through the new issues over the last few days. And then one more thing I wanted to quickly talk about before we drop is, since we've wrapped up Sprint 4, I wanted to see if we have any folks who are available to do any demos for the incremental functionality we've delivered now. So if you have something that you could do a demo of a step that we've made forward in our progress, that would be great, and we can schedule it in. We tend to do those on Thursdays if possible. So if we can get some demos, I'd like to get some lined up either this Thursday or next Thursday if possible.
Hey, this is Matt, John Ray. I figured with the OpenOMCI stuff, it might be good to show it off, given it's a mountain of code.
I was hoping to hear that.
Okay.
Okay.
So yeah, anybody who wants to see that, it probably would be good to step through that and kind of see what that looks like.
Okay. So let's talk offline.
Matt, are you? Yeah, can you guys get ready? I mean, be ready on Thursday. I know next week you'll be busy.
Yeah, I think so. Thursday should work. This week, Thursday should be fine. I'll let you know when I have free time. Or you could just look at my calendar, Julie. You can see my calendar.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Oh, calendar? What do you mean? I mean,
like AT&T calendar.
The demo Thursday on doing the TSD call. That's why I think that's what the demo Julie was talking about.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, yeah.
Okay.
Either way, my availability is there.
And great. And then if you could let me know roughly how much time you think. We usually try and limit them to kind of a total per demo of 15 to 30, including discussion time, but depends on how big a chunk of work is being discussed. So if you could take a look and we can coordinate timing that.
Yeah,
okay?
I'll let you know.
And anyone else who's interested in doing a demo, please let me know and we can get that slotted in for a meeting as well. Okay, I think we're about out of time. We've got just a couple minutes left. So Sean, we've got a couple action items for you to follow up with service providers. And then David, you're going to check on 542 with Amit, for example, see if we can get a path forward on that to unblock the work for down.
Okay.
And then, we'll keep looking at the backlog also to see if we can find a path forward for what to do with some of the stale or old tickets. So we had some discussion about that earlier. And I think that takes us to the end of the meeting. So last call for comments or questions before we drop for today.
I think Gamsa just send a question on the VOLTHA discuss regarding to the, I think also DHCP related stuff. So I hope there's some answer. I think it's blocking some of the work also. And the other thing is, Julie, can you stop the recording?
Yes, we're done with the meeting, so I will stop the recording.